Right. Thank you so much. I think many people are celebrating the fact that we're taking now agriculture, food systems, and water more seriously than before in this COP. I'm quoting some of the veterans for COPs and conferences like these for many years. But I think the more important matter now is basically trying to see some sort of actionable measures. Happy with your three main areas of discussion, and we'll try to address them super fast given the time. But in the meeting that we just had now, in addressing the initiative called AIM, attended by the Minister of Agriculture from Egypt and the US, and the Minister of Climate from the UAE. So there is Agriculture Innovation Mission for Climate. So this is possibly answering one of the main challenges, which is basic about science, role of research and development, and the minister the secretary from the US mentioned a couple of initiatives to support work on science and sharing knowledge in this area of work on agriculture and food systems. Then Egypt came with the idea of having the FAST initiative. There are the AIM initiative and the FAST initiative, the Food and Agriculture for Sustainable Transformation, to complement some of the areas on work when it comes to technical assistance and finance, and linking that all to the Sharm el-Sheikh adaptation agenda, which has food security and agricultural systems as the first area of impact and impact assessment when it comes to agriculture. But what is missing? It's still the three main challenges outlined in different areas of work on climate action: adequate finance or funding for research and development, adequate finance when it comes to implementation in the field, and then we have something that is not addressed, but basically the smart person who put the questions about what are the challenges. I would say the issues related to behavioral change in order to support the work at leaders level and at the business level, and of course in society. So, and all at the end will boil down perhaps to finance and capacity. So how can we get this? Because we are required now in our work and the champions in addressing the Sharm el-Sheikh adaptation agenda to see how that is going to be operationalized, how that is going to be projectized, not just to talk about it. And we need to have monthly update perhaps for our ambitions or to deserve this impressive title called champions to support the work. So one area of work on finance, I think we just mentioned areas, Helmi just mentioned the carbon credit market. This is with potential, but we need to make sure that the whole ecosystem on the demand supply side are in place, and then we keep pushing. But even if it is working fast, that will not really be complementing or bridging the gaps on funding. So we need to talk about areas of finance from business sector, from the specialized banks, and we had yesterday some good discussions about some leading banks in this area. But still, some of the major work comes from public sources, or required to be from public sources, including research and development, because the impact of research and development for it to be commercialized takes quite some time. So two proposals here. One is basically what we're trying to do when it comes to support for the agricultural sector from budgets through some SDG-based budgeting and sustainability budgeting. The other one, which could be faster, because budget, as we know, especially developing economies and emerging markets, are under severe constraints. So we put a proposal that all funding related to resilience and climate action, and your work here in agricultural food system is simply qualified under that, not just for low-income countries, but for middle-income countries, need to benefit from IDA-based funding. This is finance with grace period of 7 to 10 years, possibly. In some areas of work we can do that. Interest rate 1.5 to 2%. You pay back in 20 plus years. The beauty of this proposal that's already in existence, but it's only for low-income countries at limited scale. So you need to scale it up, and you push it for low-income countries further. So what's new? What's new is to extend the work to low-middle-income countries as well, because African countries are not low-income countries anymore. And I was surprised in some discussions with some leaders and representatives not from Africa. They still assume that Africa is low-income countries. But as mentioned by the South African president, that even the middle-income countries could be considered as vulnerable low-income countries because of the standard deviation around the averages. By average, we look good, but when it comes to discrepancies and inequality, we need to have the support. So I need your voice with us, because it's all about finance at the end of the day. Yes, private sector can do what it can, at least to finance its business. It can borrow commercial in some areas of work identified here, but the serious gaps, we need 10 times the funding required now for agriculture and food systems based in the recent work by WRI and others. So one area, either to extend the finance based on either terms to low middle income countries. In this case, you will be covering the whole African continent with the exception of one or two countries. One is high income and the other one is high middle income. So perhaps they can do market access better than the others. And the other thing that came to me from a colleague who worked with me for many years, he said in some, because we're not just talking about the World Bank, we're talking about the specialized funds and the other regional development banks. So if you cannot really do that because of some governance constraints, he is proposing to complement my proposal. His name is Chris Thomas, who worked with me, as I said, for many years. So we can really have something like rebating part of the interest for green projects, including climate and food. So this is like money back on your credit cards if you are subject to one of these packages. But we're talking about much more serious fund than that. So I would say we need to push for the funding based on either terms. And my argument for those from MDBs, if you have something better to beat IDA, please let me know and we'll push for it as well. That would be nice to have. Good thing about IDA, it doesn't just come with finance. It's coming with what is more complicated than finance, with data systems, technical assistance, capacity development, and good monitoring and evaluation when it comes to your point, Susan, about impact assessment, because that comes with independent impact assessment of either work. So let's see if that works, because we need to make some good push on this, but I need your voice through your governments who are representing you at the boards of the likes of the World Bank and the regional development banks, especially if your countries are among the G7, the G20, because they have bigger share, not necessarily bigger influence, but let me assume that in democracy we are all equal, but bigger share means something when you push for more finance, because they will have some budgetary implications on this. Having said that, I'm very grateful to your work, and we see the potential of the agricultural sector when we are building the pipeline of projects for investable opportunities, but this will be another discussion that I'll be having later on today. But this is a great day on agriculture, food adaptation, and how can we push the action further in the world. Thank you so much.